students, in today's video, we're going to review economic development. We're also going to learn of some new ways to look at whether countries in the world are more developed or less developed. By now, we're used to looking at the same data to compare quality of life in different countries and regions, such as literacy rate, life expectancy, and GDP per capita. And if you remember, we call those data economic indicators. If a country has high GDP per capita, high GDP, high literacy, and long life expectancy, would this country be more developed or less developed? Of course, it will be more developed because people will be making more money, their education level will be higher, and they're going to be living longer. Now, less developed countries, people will be making less money, they're going to have low GDP per capita and low GDP. Their education level will be lower, their literacy rate will be low, and they're also going to have short life expectancy. However, there are a lot of factors that contribute to people's quality of life besides the usual ones that we always use. For example, how healthy is the environment? How do people spend their free time? How fair are the laws? How much crime is there? How happy people are? So let's look at some maps that are going to introduce some of those new ways to look at people's quality of life. This map shows the most and the least happy countries around the world. If we look at the key, we notice that the lower the score, the less happy people are in those regions. And the higher the score, the more happy people are in this region. So currently we're learning about the region of South Asia. By looking at this map, what can you tell us about how happy people in this region are? Another factor we can look at is how healthy the environment is in a country. This map shows us the share of death from air pollution. In other words, how many people in a particular country or region die because of poor air quality. This is shown in percent. The higher the number, the more people die. So if we look at the region of South Asia, what do we notice about the air quality in that region? Another number we can look at is prison population rate. How many people are incarcerated for every 100,000 people in a country? Once again, dark purple means more people are in jail in those countries. The lighter color means less people are in prison in those countries. You might have noticed that the United States of America has the highest incarceration rate out of all the countries in the world. But let's go back to our region of South Asia. What do we notice about their prison population rate? Okay, so let's go ahead and learn about some additional indicators of quality of life. One of them is unemployment. In other words, the amount of people willing and able to work who cannot find jobs. So if unemployment is high, is that a good thing or a bad thing? If there are a lot of people without jobs, then generally that is a bad thing, both for the people's quality of life and also for the economy of the country. The low unemployment is much better. We can also look at the amount of money spent on healthcare. In other words, how much money do people spend on health insurance, doctor's visits, appointments, and medicine? Usually, if they spend a lot of money, that is not such a good thing. And if they spend less money, this is usually considered to be a, a better indicator of quality of life. However, there are some things to consider. Number one, less money spent on healthcare could also mean less access to it. And usually this indicator is most useful when you compare countries with similar development and similar GDP per capita. Another interesting fact is that our country, the United States, has the most expensive healthcare system in the world. However, we are still considered to be a more developed country. Another number we can look at is murder and crime rate, the frequency that crime or murders occur in the country. So what do we think? Would low crime rates, would that be a good thing or a bad thing? Of course, if the low rates are going to be good. That means there is less murders and less crime happening in that country. And the opposite, the more crime, of course, that is not such a good thing for a community. 3 more indicators. Class divide, how unequal the economic conditions are for people, really rich versus really poor. So usually if there is a big class divide, if there is a huge gap, we only have a really wealthy people and really poor people in the country with no middle class, that is not healthy for the economy and the quality of life is not good. Small class divide, the better. However, think about this. In very poor countries, there may be a small class divide, which might not necessarily be a positive thing. Why do you think that is? We already looked at the map that shows us how many people are in prison for every 100,000 people in that country. Once again, the more people in prison, we consider that to be not a good thing. The less people in prison is better. But once again, in countries with lower numbers of people in prison, we need to ask ourselves, why? It could be because their police and their justice systems are corrupt. The crimes might still be happening, but people might not be caught or prosecuted for those crimes. Finally, we can also look at electricity use. How much electricity is used per person? So this is also, we can look at it at 2 different ways. Usually, the more electricity, that is not really considered to be a good thing. The less electricity, the usage, the better per person. However, access to electricity is important here. If we use less electricity because we don't have it, well, that's not such a good thing for the people. On the other hand, if we do have access to electricity, but we use a lot of it, well, then it can negatively impact the environment. So in tomorrow's lesson, you will be looking at some countries in South Asia. And based on the information that you would be answering some questions. So for example, let's say we are comparing Mexico to the United States. If Mexico were your home instead of the United States, you would die 4 years sooner. You would make 70% less money, be 23% less likely to be unemployed, spend 93% less money on healthcare, be 5 times more likely to be murdered, experience 7% more of a class divide, be 69% less likely to be in prison, and use 85% less electricity. If you have any questions about today's video review, let your social studies teachers know. Have a great day, Bulldogs.